There's Ninjago mobile games, there's Ninjago computer games, there's Ninjago handheld games, and there are even Ninjago console games. There are just so many different types of Ninjago games that have been released in the past. Some are really good, some however are not that great. But here today, we'll be ranking every Ninjago video game, or at least most of them in case I accidentally missed one or two. But without further ado, let's just get in with the first game. So starting in alphabetical order, let's start with the game called Abyss. So this game released during Seabound's release. This is basically an underwater Subway Surfers, except it is very easy. You basically just tap the spacebar to avoid the obstacles, and you can only go in like 2 different lanes. And also every couple seconds, this old guy that kind of sounds like Sensei Wu says something random. So yeah, it's not a very good game. I would probably put it in D tier, because at least it works. And next is a game called Ninjago Blood Moon Battle. And even though this game would have only come out like 1 year ago, I could not find anywhere to play this game. It's not on their website, and nothing came up when I searched for it. But this game does exist according to the Ninjago wiki. However, there are only 4 images of the entire game. There is no other information about it anywhere. So I guess I have no choice to put it in F tier. I mean, it must have been pretty bad for LEGO to completely remove its entire existence from the internet. And now we move on to a game that I am very excited to play for the first time, and that is Chen's Return. I have heard a few people in the community talk about this game, especially in Tanafishy streams, but I've never actually played it or seen any gameplay of it, so I'm not really too sure what to expect. So it started off with this beautiful shot of the Temple of Ejitsu LEGO set, and then it cuts to Wu drinking some tea, which turns out to be Traveler's Tea. So a portal opens up to the Cursed Realm, and Chen comes on through and takes Wu away from the ninja. And in the ninja's time of need, the first Ninjutsu Master comes up to them to help make the golden weapons again. The only thing is, they need to go all across Ninjago to go find them. So we start off in the canyons with Kai, and immediately, I already know that this was just another Subway Surfers clone. But I do have to say right off the bat that the scenery actually looks quite good, which was not what I was expecting. Anyway, after running for a few minutes, I found my first gold brick, which meant I had 1 out of 5. So I guess it is a little bit different to Subway Surfers. Anyway, after about another minute of running, I ran into this power-up, which gave me the ability to use Kai's X1 Ninja Charger, which was so cool. However, I did play this game on my 7-year-old school laptop, so it did freeze for a good 3 seconds before I could continue playing. Anyway, I then ended up in this very enclosed area where I had my first death. And this is where I found out that I only had 3 lives. It was also where I found out how easy it was to go through them all. So with 1 life remaining, I went through the rest of the course, and I thought it was quite cool how the track kept on changing directions, which really reminded me of the Temple Runner game from back in the day. Anyway, I successfully completed the first section of the game, making it to a cliff overlooking Ninjago City. Then we moved on to the Jamonokai Jungle, wherever that is, and this level was a lot harder than the last one, to say the least. I actually had to restart this level like 10 to 15 times, because I just couldn't get past all of these logs. Speaking of those logs, jumping across them the entire time definitely made me feel like a little bit more of a ninja, and also just made it a lot more enjoyable to play as well. Also, around halfway through this level, you go through this like a maze thing where you have to avoid some stone warriors, and they aren't hard obstacles, but it does give you something different to do. And Cole also gets a vehicle in this level just like Kai did, and he got his boulder blaster, which was really fun to see, especially because you could also go up and down with it as well. And now we move on to the Glacier Barrens of Zane, and to be honest, this was probably the worst level so far. There wasn't really too much going on apart from having to avoid these falling icicles, which were pretty easy to avoid in all things considered. So there was also this section where you go inside and you have to avoid getting hit by an arrow from the Hypnobro, and you also get a choice of which way you wanted to go, which I guess was pretty cool. Also, Zane's vehicle in this game was his Titan mech, and this one was actually pretty disappointing as he really couldn't do anything really apart from just walking. And now we move on to the final level, Ninjago City, where we get to control both Kai, Cole and Zane. And this level did take me like an hour to complete, which was a little bit annoying. Anyway, you start off jumping over some boxes and broken cars are laying around the city until you make your way to the main road where you meet Chen in his weird chair. and here you have to avoid getting hit from his spells while also being ready to hit him when he comes close, and if you don't hit the jump button fast enough, you are dead. And I actually could not count how many times I died due to this, especially how many times I got so close to defeating him. Anyway, approximately an hour later, I hit his chair enough to send him flying, and we got Wu back. And I couldn't tell you what really happened here because I could not read that writing at the end at all. So anyway, after spending a very long time on this game, where will I put it? Well, it looked quite good and also controlled quite decently as well, but it was definitely slightly repetitive and a little boring at times, so I will put it at the top of this list for now, but that is only going to be in B. But now it is time to move on to a much more boring game, and this game simply called Crystallize. So this game is literally a crappy copy of that Seabound game. I mean, Creepy Wu has even returned for this game. The only difference is, however, we control Jay's bike, and I guess I did slightly prefer this game because the color scheme is more appealing, and I did see a Vangelis minifigure and also part of the Crystal King Temple, which I guess was pretty cool. But as I said, this is exactly the same game as that Abyss game, so I will put it in the same team. So now we move on to the first of the many games that I will be forced to play on some sketchy websites, and the first game we are playing is Fallen Ninja. So in this game, you have to stop Moro from getting the Scroll of Air Jutsu, and how do you stop him? You jump from wall to wall, and well, I just sucked at this for 5 minutes. I was trying to jump over this bit here, and I just could not do it. I have no idea if it was just a skill issue or if it was actually just impossible to do, but I just couldn't find a way to progress more than 20 seconds into the game. I will have to put it into D tier because at least it is playable, unlike the Blood Moon battle. So now we'll move on to the latest Ninjago game, Fear No Chaos. So this game sort of takes on the events of Season 3, but not really. So basically, the Forbidden 5 have freed Thunderfang, and it is your job to find 5 chains to chain him back up again. So in this game, you control Wildfire, and you first have to find all of the ninja on the map, and they will ask you to find something, whether it be like a sword, a blade, or a hood, for example. And then, once you have done that, they will remove their chains from their portal, so you can go through it and complete a challenge for them. So the first challenge I did was Pixels, where I had to control Ryu and fly through the sky and try to get in 10 of these hoops within a certain amount of time. But the catch is, if you hit something, it deducts 1 point from you. And yeah, this was super duper easy. And now we have our first chain. So then I moved on to Nia's level, where she had me round up a few baby dragons and put them into a pen. And again, this was super easy. I only died once, and that was just because I wanted to see what would happen if I walked into the tornado. And then I moved on to Sora's mission, where I had to do a puzzle, which immediately reminded me of those puzzles in those Lego games. And my first thought was, oh, this will be super easy. It will take me like 20 seconds. So again, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that it took me almost 15 minutes to do. Yeah, I don't even know how it took me that long. It should not have even taken me half as long, so yeah, that is very embarrassing on my end, but at least I managed to do it. And then I did Aaron's mission, and this one was just a little bit confusing. The aim was to hide from some of these bad guys by putting on the hood of focus, which makes it harder for the enemies to find you. And the confusing thing was that I wasn't sure what I was even meant to do. I started by just walking around, I couldn't find anything. I then tried creeping up behind the bad guys to see if it would do anything. It didn't. So then after I started to get a bit better at the game, I ended up finding out that the whole point of this game was to find the blue glowing chain on the ground. So yeah, it ended up being quite simple to find, but thankfully this level did actually end up taking me less time than that puzzle level. Now we move on to the penultimate level, being Kai's, where he has to take on 2 Nias and a Lloyd in a Spinjitzu battle, where you move the cursor back and then release it to launch yourself into them, with the goal of getting them in these goals or whatever you want to call them. And may I just say, this was actually quite fun and even a little bit challenging at the same time. It definitely did take me a few attempts to get done. So here we go, we have all of the chains, so we can now move on to the last challenge, being Zane's one, which is a fight against Thunderfang himself. And I am using the term fight here pretty loosely, because basically the whole thing is you move left to right to avoid some blasts from Thunderfang. Then every now and again you have to tap the screen to chain him, and the annoying thing with this is you have to chain each chain twice because he breaks it off the first time or whatever. And the reason this is annoying is because sometimes it didn't give me enough time to chain the dragon, leading me to taking a lot more time on this already very boring level. And once you end up completing the game, what you do get? You get to download this image of the ninja celebrating. Definitely making this my new phone wallpaper now. So anyway, where do I rank this game? I mean, half of the mini games were actually quite a bit of fun, but there were like half of them which were very boring. So I will put it into B tier, because it does seem at the very least they put a lot of effort into this game. Okay, so the next game up is called Golden Legacy, and the premise of this game that the time gate has been opened, and well, I don't really know the rest, and I couldn't care less enough to find out, because as you'll find out, this game is pretty trash. Anyway, there are like 4 levels to complete. The first one is a Tournament of Elements, where you actually get to build the Legacy Tournament of Elements set, or at least put some parts of it together, which I did actually find quite cool. But then onto the actual gameplay, you tap the screen to jump over some rock and also Jacob's sound waves, and then you get into a fight where again you have to tap the screen so many times to perform Ninjitsu and defeat the enemies. And this was super easy, and it all took me less than a minute, and I then unlocked Golden Legacy Void. Then the next mini game is with Zane, and this one was a little bit better. In this one you tap the screen to dash into the ghosts, and basically all I did was just spam the screen randomly, and again this was just super duper easy. And then after that we take on the Overlord by, guess what, tapping the screen. And sadly, by doing this, I did not unlock a new character, but at least this game was a bit better than the others. And the next game was just a really bad Subway Surfers knockoff, where you have to hold the cursor to move, and to be honest, I really sucked at this one. Anyway, after that, we then hop in the Boulder Blaster, which just automatically fires bullets into Inagami until he was defeated. Again, another very boring level. And now in the final game, we again control Zane and again tap the screen to perform a dash attack. But instead of fighting ghosts, we are fighting the Overlord Dragon. And again, I just spammed the button until I defeated him. So this game literally had less than 5 minutes of playtime and also less than 1/10 of fun. This game is an easy D tier because all I did was tap the damn screen. And now let's move on to Legendary Ninja Battles. And the story of this game is that the ninja are chilling in Transnoodle House when there is one aggro left. So Zane says the best ninja should get it. So they fight over why they believe they are the best by going through some moments from the TV show. The first moment we play through is Kai taming the fire dragon. So in this level, we have to platform across some platforms and stuff, and you also get to fight some of the Shadow Garmadons, which I thought was very cool. Anyway, we then fight the fire dragon by making it fire its balls into these dragon heads, and then that for some reason allows us to tame him, and then for some reason it allows us to hit the dragon in the head until we tame it. Anyway, Cole says that he is better because of the time he took out No-Eyed Pete. I mean, I don't really remember that moment from the show, and also he is bragging about taking down a blind guy. Anyway, in this level, we go through the pirate ship and jump on top of some really huge crates. And then at the end, we have to hit the cannons with Cole's Sice to hit No-Eyed Pete. And this actually did take me 2 attempts to complete. And now let me move on to Jay's mission, which was easily the hardest out of the lot. Here you control Jay's jet and you fly around the sky, avoiding getting hit by the lasers and serpentine helicopters. Then you also have to fire missiles at the statue of Jay that Ed built on 3 separate occasions as well. And I just kept on dying to it. It took me ages to complete this level, but I was extremely happy when I finally did it. And now we do Lloyd's memory of when he took on the Overlord. So we start off by climbing up the stairs of what is now Borg Tower, while we fight off some stone warriors on the way. And after tiring way up, we get to the top in order to face the Overlord Dragon. And here we actually do turn gold, which was actually kind of surprised to see. and now we have to fire our golden energy blast at the Overlord while also avoiding some purple smoke that comes out of his mouth. That was pretty easy for the most part, apart from a few hiccups here and there. And now onto the last level, we have one for Zane, and this level is definitely not as interesting as the last one, because here you pretty much just jump across some platforms over some star teeth and also onto some boats as well, and that's pretty much it. No enemies to even fight, nothing. And then in the second half of this level, we fight the Leviathan by throwing our shurikens at it, and this one was also very simple. The game then ends with the ninja saying that Zane really was the greatest ninja and that they will find him. So overall, this game wasn't bad. It definitely had some good moments, but for the most part, it was just a platforming game, and a short platforming game at that. It only took me around 40 odd minutes to complete. It definitely isn't bad, but I also think it could be done in 20 minutes if you really tried. Regardless though, this game is definitely alright, so it will definitely go in the C tier. So we are now moving on to one of the most unique Ninjago games to date, the Ninjago Battle Arena in Fortnite. So as we all know, Fortnite is probably the most popular game of all time behind Minecraft. So obviously, LEGO wanted to be a part of that, so they partnered up with Epic Games to create LEGO Fortnite, which absolutely blew up for like the first 2 weeks of this launch, and then most people have barely played it since. However, I still do play this game a few times a year just to see what they've changed. Anyway, there has always been talk about Ninjago being added to Fortnite, and there have even been rumors of Ninjago skins for a while now, but there's still no word of when or even if that will ever happen. But for now, there is an official Ninjago minigame in LEGO Fortnite that we can play, and I'm excited to try it again as I haven't played it since it first came out. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like I'll be able to play it because this minigame is just dead. I couldn't find a game. However, I did have a good time running around the grounds of the monastery and trying to climb this obstacle course, and of course going to the training ground to practice Spinjitzu, and of course meeting Master Lloyd. But since I do remember this game being quite decent, as you basically got all of these like different power-ups, and of course got to use Spinjitzu to hit your opponents. I was also pretty good at this game, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I can't put it too high up since, you know, it's basically unplayable right now, but at the time it was a very decent game. So to the right of Fear No Chaos you go. And staying on console, let's now move on to LEGO Brawls. So this technically isn't a Ninjago game, but there are Ninjago characters, maps, and even some Ninjago battle passes in the game. And this game is like 5 years old, and I haven't played it in like 2 years, but unlike Fortnite, we could actually find a match this time. However, I'm like 99% sure that this is just because we aren't versing real people. They're definitely bots. So the first Ninjago map we will be playing on is the Seabound level, which is quite fitting as I selected the Seabound pass to grind out. So anyway, I was put on Team Nia, and the objective was to control the point. So basically, what I had to do was go to the middle of the map and take out the other people, which was quite easy. My health got very low towards the end, but I managed to stay alive until the very end without dying, and also got this strong ray power up, which allowed me to sting my opponents, but I don't think it was very effective. And at the end of it, I unlocked Scuba Nia. And the next map I played was Prime Empire, and this one was a free-for-all game, meaning it was every minifigure for himself. So in this mode, whoever had the most kills wins, and it didn't seem like the AI got the memo as they were just running away from me the entire time. However, I did manage to get a few kills using some power-ups like a horse, a blaster, and some ninja moves, which led me to victory, and this game unlocked me Scuba Kai. And then it was time to play the Legacy mode, which was similar to the Seabound one, as we also had to control the point here. But the difference here is, once you control the point, you get to take control of Nia's Samurai Mech as well, which was definitely quite a bit of fun to use. However, I didn't get to use it for too long, as the game quickly crashed on me. I guess all good things must come to an end. And then the final map to try was a Dragon's Rising map, and again, it was another control the point game. However, there was a twist, because in this mode, the points took less time to control, and once you took control of one point, another one popped up, and the fight to control the second and third point were tougher than I expected. I even died a few times, but we still managed to come out victorious, and we celebrated by taking a ride on Giro. So while it was good to revisit a game that I haven't played in a long time, I unfortunately didn't have the best time playing it, as it was a bit boring. There was no skills or tricks to learn or really anything that really interesting in the game other than being able to play as some of my favorite ninjas. However, the actual quality of this game is just way beyond anything that we've played today, maybe apart from Fortnite. So that's why I'm gonna have to put it at the top of this list for the time being in the B tier. And we are still sticking on console. However, the console you actually play this game on is a few generations old now, and the game in question is a childhood favorite of mine, of course being LEGO Dimensions. So again, this game also isn't strictly a Ninjago game. However, there is a level themed around Tournament of Elements and also a hub world where you can explore some of the major locations in the land of Ninjago. However, the problem with this game is if you wanted to play as any of the ninja, you have to pay $20 for a fun pack, which includes a minifigure, a toy pad to download your minifigure onto the game, and then a small build that you also get to control in the game. And when considering if you wanted to buy the full ninja team, it would cost you over $100. It doesn't seem so fun anymore. So I was actually fortunate enough to get some of the Ninjago characters for this game, as I got Kai and Cole, which was enough for me to actually unlock the Ninjago world and also perform Spinjitzu. And as I said, this game is a childhood classic of mine. Like, I probably have close to 1,000 hours on this game. Like, it genuinely my most played game, up there with FIFA, I know. And also, let me know whether you want to see a more in-depth video where we go over Ninjago and LEGO Dimensions, because I think that could be a lot of fun. But now, where do we rank it? If you didn't have to buy any of the characters, this game would easily be an S tier, but because it can get pricey, I'm sadly going to have to knock it down to A tier. And now let me move on to a different kind of console, a handheld console. And when I talk about handheld consoles, the only one I could really be talking about is, of course, the DS. And the game in question is Ninjago Ninja. And sadly, I can't actually play this game because I never actually got this game on my DS, and I couldn't find any place to buy the game. However, I did see some walkthroughs on YouTube, and for what I could gather, this game follows the events of Rebooted. You start with the Overlord taking over Borg Tower, and you have to run around Borg Tower as one of the ninja, and in each level, you have to complete some challenges, such as completing it in a certain amount of time or finding a collectible. And in some of the levels, you also get to control some of the ninjas' vehicles, which is pretty neat as well. But for the most part, it does follow the same formula as every other LEGO game. You can hit stuff, you collect studs, you fight enemies, and there's even a hub world and a store where you can buy characters. And for what I can tell, this game does actually look pretty fun, but since I haven't personally played it, I feel like I can't justify putting it in A, but I will put it at the top of B tier, because I think I definitely would have enjoyed it playing it more than LEGO Brawl. And now, keeping to the rebooted theme, let's now talk about the rebooted mobile game called Ninjago Rebooted. And it's also another game that I am unable to find anywhere, play it unless I download it. But yeah, I don't really feel like getting any viruses on my computer today. But that doesn't really matter, because I have played this game before, as I had it on my tablet as a kid. And this game is sort of like a Jetpack Joyride, if you're old enough to remember that game. Except you also get to climb up Borg Tower and also fight enemies as well, including the Overlord at the very end. I didn't play this game much. However, as it really wasn't too great, there was another Ninjago game that was also just 10 times better that I will definitely be talking about later on in the video. So I think bottom of C tier is definitely fair for this game. And now let me move on to one of the first Ninjago games ever made, Rise of the Snakes. So guess what? I also can't play this game. But from what I can tell, the game doesn't look too interesting anyway. From what I watched gameplay wise, you choose which spinner you want to use, and also what character and weapons you want as well, which all affects your stats. And then you get put into an arena where you fight an enemy on one of the spinners, and for what it looks like, you just chase them around. And I am sure I probably would have loved this as a kid, but unfortunately I was a bit young when this game came out, so maybe someone a bit older can tell me how great this game was, but for me, I'm gonna have to put this in C tier. And now let's talk about a game that I love, and that game is Ninjago Shadow of Ronin. So I will keep this one short and concise, as I have made an entire video on this game before, so check that out if you want to see me talk about this game a bit more. So this game released on the 3DS in 2015, right after Tournament of Elements came out, and the story isn't canon to the show, but it definitely could be. So the game starts with Ronin taking all of the ninja's memories from the beginning of the pilot to the then current time period. So to regain those memories, the ninja must find the obsidian weapons, which are basically just reskinned golden weapons. I mean, they even found the exact same places as well. Anyway, once you get all the memories back, Ronin then shows up with these crystals called the Elemental Forges, and there are 4 of them, one for each element of creation, and Ronin needs them in order to create a portal for his master or something. It has been a while since I made that video, okay? Anyway, the ninja ends up stopping him with the Tornado of Creation, and all is well and good. So now that we have the story aspect out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. You can punch, you can kick, and most importantly, you can do spinjitzu and use elemental powers, which is more than what I can say for a certain game coming up. Also, you can use any ninja suit from up until Season 4, which is another very cool detail, needless to say, of course. And yeah, I just love this game so much. There isn't a single thing I would change about it, maybe other than using the real ninja voice actors. But yeah, this game is the easiest S tier if I've ever seen one. And now moving on to another game from my childhood, which is right up there with Shadow of Ronin and one other game. And that game I'm talking about is Ninjago The Final Battle. And guess what? You can't play this game anymore. But still, this game is very good from memory. You start off by controlling ZX Lloyd, and you fight the Stone Army Warriors, and then these power things pop up, and when you go through them, you turn into like that specific ninja, and at the end of the level, the bell comes up at the top of the map, and you have to jump up and hit it, and then you get to turn into Golden Lloyd. And this game is just so much fun, and I wish I could still play it, because I would be able to talk about it for so much longer, but unfortunately I can't play it, but it still firmly goes into the A tier, but obviously below LEGO Dimensions. And now we move on to that game that I've been foreshadowing for like the whole video, and that game is of course Ninjago The Tournament. And you know the drill by now. I also couldn't play this game, which disappointed me so much. I did find a way that potentially allows you to download the game, but it was quite confusing, and I also didn't want to get a virus on my phone. Anyway, I do remember this game was just so much fun. Basically, if you sadly didn't get a chance to play this game, you control one of the Ninjago characters, and you can punch, jump, block, and hit enemies with a sword. And once your meter fills up, you can perform spinjitzu, which is obviously very cool. You also get to fight some of the elemental masters as well. Now, I remember trying to fight all of them in one round without dying. I can't remember if I did it though. I also remember trying to save up my suds to buy Golden Lloyd as well. I mean, this game is without a doubt an S tier, and it definitely is in with a shout at being on top of the list, but I haven't played this game for over 10 years, so maybe my nostalgia is just hyping it up a bit. But regardless, I still love this game so much. Another game I played a little bit as a kid is Woo Crew, and I don't have anywhere near as much fond memories with this game as I had with the last few. And you know what? I'm not even that mad that I couldn't play this game. The only good thing that I remember about this game is that you could create your own ninja and join the Woo Crew. And I'm not exactly sure on this one. You have to tap the screen to move, which was also really annoying. Anyway, you could also get to fight enemies by tapping the screen. And there are also these pop-ups that come up when you fight, which is certainly something, that's for sure. You can also open chests to get rewards like in Fortnite. I mean, for what I've watched, it looks like a fun game. I definitely don't remember all too much about it, so I think that does say quite a bit, as I'm going to put it in B tier. It definitely looks okay, but definitely not the best. And we finally managed to make it to a game that is available to be played, and that is Ninjago's Possession. But to be honest, it was so laggy that I wish that I wasn't able to play it. However, I did play this game back in the day on the library computers at primary school, and of course it was a lot of fun. There are 4 different locations from Ninjago that you can explore: the City of Sticks, the Cloud Kingdom, the Caves of Despair, and one other place which might be the Tomb of the First Ninjutsu Master, but that doesn't really matter, as you get to play as all of the ninja minus Nia for some reason. Anyway, this game is sort of like a platforming game where you jump from place to place by using air jutsu, which is pretty cool. You can also break bamboo with your arrow blades. Anyway, the aim of the game is to find these pieces of Lego. I don't really remember why, but yeah, I did really have fun playing this game back in the day, and it is very unfortunate that you can't properly play it anymore. But yeah, another easily high B tier game. And similar to Ninjago Possession, we have Ninjago Rush. And guess what? Just like that game, it doesn't really work properly. Anyway, this game actually came out before that game, because this game is obviously made for Season 4. Anyway, the difference between the two games is in this one, you need to find 3 Jade Blades in each level. And in this game, you can also use Benjutsu to fight enemies, which is cool. And you can also jump from wall to wall. And then once you get all of the Jade Blades and all of the levels, you get to customize your own ninja, and then you get to like race all of the elemental masters through a level. And I remember being horrendously bad at this, but also having a lot of fun to playing this at the same time. I mean, for that mode alone, I'm gonna have to put it in the A tier. And continuing with the season themed games, we now have Ninjago Skybound. So this game is very different from every other game we have played today. So basically in this game you hold the screen and then aim where you want Jay to jump, and then he jumps there. And then you do this hundreds of times to not only jump but also attack enemies. In this game there are also like weapons you can unlock with studs like a hook gun and nunchucks. There are also boss battles in this game as well. There is even this Donkey Kong style boss fight with Monkey Wretch, which is probably my favourite part of this game. This game is also a little bit challenging, but in a fun way. There are also a ton of levels in this game, and I can't lie, they were all pretty fun. The only thing that makes me not want to put it in A tier is that the game does get a little bit repetitive as the gameplay gets old after a while, but it definitely deserves to go high into that B tier. And now we move on to a game that makes a lot of sense for existing, Prime Empire. I know, unfortunately, this isn't a fully fledged game of the actual Prime Empire from the show, because that would just be too good to be true. And in fact, this game could not be further away from that. So it starts off with Jay waking up in the woods somewhere, and then you walk around for a bit, move some boulders, get some katanas, and learn how to use Benjutsu. And then this game starts to turn into a platformer where you jump from tree branches, and you can also fight some of the rats from the show. Anyway, I also did want to mention that this game actually looks like amazing, to be honest. As you play, Jay makes facial expressions depending on what's happening, and that is very cool. Anyway, in the second level you find Cole, and you run into a very weird looking version of Akino, who tells us to go to the Cliffs of Panic, which I believe is meant to be like the Cliffs of Hysteria from the show. Anyway, we climb through the mountain, and then we fall down this hole, so we then have to make our way back up. And then when we needed it most, Kai comes in clutch, and he saves us by pulling out a rope. And then the game cuts, saying, find out what happens next by watching the show. So yeah, that was quite a disappointment. I thought we were going to end up fighting all of the ninja, maybe even fight Unigami, but no, there were only 3 levels that took less than 10 minutes to complete altogether. So was my time playing this game enjoyable? Yes. But seeing as this game took less than an entire episode of Prime Empire to complete, have to push this potentially A tier game all the way down to the top of C tier. So now we move on to the next game, Ride Ninja. And this was a game that I had on my iPod back in the day, and it was alright from memory. Pretty much in this game, you control Zane's bike and you drive along the highway of Ninjago City as you defeat the Sons of Garmin and bikers by tapping the screen. And this game very much reminded me of that Lego Batman game that I believe probably came out at a similar time. Anyway, your car can get damaged as you go, and you can fix it by going through these mechanic rings. So yeah, this is pretty much your basic Ninjago game that comes out to promote the newer season. And yeah, it isn't bad. It's certainly fun for like half an hour, but after that it does get boring. So yeah, this is going to go into C tier, just behind that rebooted game. And now for the final game on this list. I saved the biggest one for last, and that is of course the Lego Ninjago movie video game. Anyway, a lot of people aren't a fan of this game because I don't like the movie, but for me, the game and the movie are both really fun. The combat in this game is actually levels above any other Lego game ever made. I mean, there was just so many moves you could pull off, and you could even upgrade them. There are also so many characters from the show and movie that you could play as well. Pretty much anyone who appeared up until 2017 is in this game in some way. There are also heaps of really cool locations from the movie that you can explore and unlock collectibles in, and there are even these battle arena type things where you get to fight the main villain of the first 7 Ninjago seasons, and these were just super fun. The only negative thing I have to say about this game is with the ninjas' elemental powers, because for whatever reason, they can't like use their powers like I do in the show. Instead, they create like balls of spinjitzu and just hit targets to complete missions. But anyway, other than that small thing, this game is fun, which is exactly why I'm putting it smack bang in the middle of that S tier. So this is my ranking of every Ninjago video game. Hopefully I haven't missed any, at least like big games. But with all that being said, if you want to hear more on my favorite Ninjago game, Shadow of Ronin, click the video on the screen right here. But if not, I hope to see you in the next one. See ya later, be ninja.